The impact of abortion on men goes largely unnoticed. However, in reality, millions of men daily struggle from the loss of a child to abortion. Today, we're going to hear the personal stories of John and Jason, as well as an expert in the field. Hopefully afterward, we'll better understand their silent pain. Meet John Morales. He had a successful career as a sports reporter for Major League Baseball, football, and basketball. But his time as a sports anchor and field reporter is only one facet of his life. John is one of every 3 men who've been involved with an abortion. Now, over 20 years later, John is talking about how one abortion impacted his life.
I had met a young lady in the mid-1980s. I was a young guy, and it was a relationship that, quite frankly, was based on physical attraction. It wasn't real. It wasn't based on the real stuff, the good stuff that in my present days I've come to learn. But back then, there was a physical attraction. I had no idea of just how wrong it was at the time. And one thing led to another, and one day she comes to me and says to me that she's pregnant. And you talk about a wake-up call and a life-changing experience at the time. Here I am. I'm just starting out in broadcasting. I'm all excited about what I'm doing, and I want to be a network sportscaster one day when I grow up. And she's pregnant. And Brad, I remember so vividly. I remember begging her, getting down on one knee, literally, like people do when they're proposing to someone, kind of like the reverse. Please, grabbing her by the hand, please, begging her, please, don't go through with this. There's got to be another way, and there's something we could do. We could give the baby up for adoption. I knew even then, even though I didn't have any understanding of the spiritual perspective or the biological perspective, innately, instinctively, I knew that was a baby. That was my baby inside of her womb. And I begged her. She absolutely was recalcitrant. She was adamant that she wanted to go through with the abortion, and she would not listen. And on the contrary, she demanded that I give her $250 at the time for the abortion. I agreed to go along with it, and I think it was obviously in my weakness. If I knew then what I know now, it would be a whole different ballgame. But I begged her. She decided to go forward, and from that point on, obviously, it had ramifications that to this day, there's been a ripple effect that I've had to deal with the rest of my life.
Over the past 5 years, a movement has been growing, a network of men for men who are processing the impact an abortion had in their lives. Men like Jason Jones willingly shared their experience with abortion and how it emotionally impacted their future decisions and worldviews. For every abortion, and there's been 50 million of them since 1973, there is a man involved. Jason, tell me your story about abortion.
2 days before my 17th birthday, my girlfriend came into my room and told me she was pregnant. Early in the morning, she woke me up. She was crying. And my first response, although I was 16 and just about to turn 17, I was strangely happy. And I just said, what are we going to do? We got to figure this out. And a friend of mine had just dropped out of high school through a special program in the military at 17 and joined the Army. So I knew about this program. I said, well, what I can do is I can drop out of high school on my birthday and join the Army. And you just wear baggy sweaters and take vitamins. That was the plan. And when I come back from basic, we'll tell your father together, and we'll get married and live happily ever after. Not a very sophisticated plan, but that was the plan. So I told my mother I wanted to join the Army. I brought her the form. She was happy to sign the form because I was kind of a troublemaker, kind of a bad kid, and she probably thought it was good for me. And my principal signed the form. Just a few weeks after my birthday, my 17th birthday, I was in Fort Benning, Georgia. So far, so good with the plan. And Katie, my high school girlfriend, was taking her vitamins, wearing her baggy sweaters. The weeks went by, months went by, and I had 2 weeks left to get out of basic training. And it was a Sunday morning. I wasn't raised Christian, so on Sundays I didn't go to church. And so I had detail or duties. And I had pots and pan detail this day. And it wasn't my Sunday to get phone calls. Every other Sunday you get a phone call. This wasn't my Sunday. And a friend came running in while I was cleaning pots and pans, and he said, Jason, your girlfriend's on the phone and she's crying. So I ran out and I answered the phone, and she was crying like I had never heard a woman cry before. And she just was saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And then her father said over the other line, Jason, we know your secret, and your secret's gone. I took her to get an abortion. With that, my drill sergeant hung up the phone. I turned around and punched my drill sergeant. I was crying. I said, send me home. Send me home. My captain came running over. I said, they killed my baby. My captain looked shocked. I didn't know you had a baby. I said, I have a daughter. He pulled me into his office. He grabbed the phone. He said, how old was your daughter? I said, she was going to be born in 3 months. And he looked at me kind of confused. And he said, you mean your girlfriend had an abortion? I said, yes. And he put the phone down. He said, you know that's legal, right? And I didn't. I didn't know it was legal. And I wish the whole world could see abortion the way I actually still see it and the way I saw it then, which it was the most bizarre thing I had ever heard in my life. And my captain sat me down and he explained to me how this happened and how this can happen. And I told him, her father made her do this. He gave me a roll of quarters and said, go to the PX, so I wouldn't disturb the whole battalion. And I went down there and I called her. And I remember when I was walking from my battalion headquarters to the PX and how I felt. I remember losing a lot of faith in my country.
Since Jason's promise to his high school girlfriend, he's made significant strides to educate men and women about the resonating impact of abortion on men, women, and children. Whether on the political scale, in arts and entertainment as co-executive producer of the acclaimed film Bella, or on a grassroots level, Jason's life is dedicated to ending legal abortion in the United States. When we return, we'll hear from John as he talks about his battle with depression, and Dr. Catherine Coyle explains the range of emotions men will struggle with after an abortion.
Whether you're a student needing answers, a parent needing help, or a concerned citizen wanting to make a difference, Life Issues Institute has the resources you need to put your values into action. Life Issues Institute is an international educational organization committed to protecting innocent human life. Life Issues Institute knows what it takes. That's why millions throughout the world turn here for help. Life Issues Institute has authored more pro-life publications than any other entity in the world, and its materials are printed in over 30 languages. Radio broadcasts, newsletters, and a website filled to the brim with the answers you're looking for are just a click away. Go to facinglife.tv and click on the link to Life Issues Institute to find out more about how you can change the heart of a nation.
John and Jason are from two different walks of life. John, a successful sports reporter, and Jason, a high school dropout who joined the Army and later went on to obtain his degree and influence leaders in all facets of life. They both have one thing in common. They're men who have lived with the regret of losing a child to abortion. When did you first notice that things were changing, that you were having emotions you hadn't had before?
I think within a very short period of time, I had this craving to go find my father, who left our family when I was 13 for South America. So there was a lot of emotions, the love of a son and a father is something that could never ever be separated. Throw in the abortion, and I went into just a horrible depression. I remember I felt sad. I felt like a dark cloud over me. I felt very, very depressed. Instead of drinking lots of beer, I just drowned myself in ice cream, and I gained about 30 pounds. And basically, was out of a job because the station that I was working with had been sold. So this was, you talk about a snowball effect. So my father, the abortion, and being out of work at that time.
Now, did you equate all of this depression with that past abortion?
Oh, I knew that there was definitely a connection.
Was there any point in time where you said, wow, this has really impacted my life?
No, I didn't know that it impacted me profoundly until much later. In fact, I would get angry when I first, because I was not a Christian, I was an atheist. I just became a Christian 5 years ago, so for 12 years in the pro-life movement, I was an atheist. And when I would hear Christians or others say that, you know, abortion really affects men and it really affects women in profound ways, I would say it affects women. It doesn't affect men, and I would act out in I would get very angry. You know, it was affecting me, and it affected me immediately. Some ways that were good, some ways that were not so good. You know, my first year in the Army, I got 5 Article 15s for fighting. 3 of them were for somebody telling me they were pro-choice. One of them is sergeant, so that's not good. It wasn't until, I'd say, 5 or 6 years ago that I would have admitted that it did impact me.
Jason and John aren't alone. According to Dr. Catherine Coyle and her colleagues, these emotions are common for men. You've written a book called Men and Abortion, A Path to Healing. And I know that a lot of those of us who counsel post-abortive men use this and it's inspired many of us to learn more and do more with men and abortion. Now, in here, you talk about some of the emotions that men go through, the anger, the helplessness, the grief, the shame. Explain how a man can identify these emotions.
Well, they may be in touch with their feelings. Some men are very in touch with their grief. Men who are opposed to the decision may be very in touch with their anger and very aware of it, but maybe feel more of a vague discomfort or a vague sadness that they can't attribute to anything. A few other things that men sometimes experience are what we call anniversary reactions, maybe more sadness or anger or some uncomfortable emotion around the time of year the baby was due or when the abortion occurred. It is a threat to their masculinity. They may suffer from role confusion afterwards. A profound sense of helplessness is another theme.
When I would see young fathers with their little boys, little girls, especially in my sports travels, because I went on to become a sportscaster and work in major markets, and I'd go to the ballpark. And Brad, I can't begin to tell you the emotions that used to go through my heart when I would see a father at the ballpark. In fact, I still get, it makes me get watery-eyed when I think about it, because I used to sit there and watch young dads with 2 or 3 boys with their little baseball caps and their gloves, and I used to say, oh gosh, I'd give anything to have a child, to have my own boy that I could take to the ballpark, you know. And this was not just at the ballpark, but this was in grocery stores, everywhere you go. I felt that I also had developed a very strong fear of commitment.
Coming up, Jason explains how the abortion his high school girlfriend was forced to endure motivated him to change people's hearts and minds about the dignity of innocent human life.
Thank you for inviting us into your home. Each week we feature real people who deal with real life issues head on. Some of their experiences are uplifting, while others will break your heart. But in the end, the message is clear. Those who follow biblical principles on the issues of life are blessed. Become a partner with us in providing a positive, life-affirming message to help change the way the next generation values innocent human life. Please consider a generous gift to help offset the costs of producing this important quality programming. You can donate on our secure website at facinglife.tv or by calling the phone number on your screen during normal business hours. Together, we can make a real difference for life.
The decision to abort a child isn't an easy choice for a woman, and it's not an easy choice for a man either. Today, we're talking to 2 men who were living with the regret of being involved in their ex-girlfriend's abortion. For Jason Jones, this regret and path to healing has played out in a unique way. So as a result of the abortion, you became a driven person, if you will.
Driven, yes.
You went back and got your diploma.
I did.
You got a college education and graduated.
I did.
And you got married and had children, right?
I did. The world, ideas mattered now. It wasn't just football and friends. Now I realized that ideas had consequences and that there was very serious issues out there. So I did become more serious. But towards men who were pro-choice, I had problems dealing with that.
So would you say the abortion was a defining moment in your life, that you were one way before the abortion and a different person afterwards?
I was a child, I was a child before the abortion. And since the day of that abortion, since the day I found out, every minute of my life, I've been focused on that. All my vacation time at work is used to travel and speak and organize for the pro-life movement. We don't use it for vacation, and I look at everyone I know, all of my friends, my wife, everything in my life has come through the pro-life movement.
Do you think abortion is something that a guy should just deal with and move on and forget about it, leave it in his past?
No, because it doesn't stay in your past. You have to deal with it every day.
Now, are there areas where the symptoms or emotions of men who have experienced the loss of a child to abortion differ from those of the mother?
You know, I really don't think the emotions are different. I think it's what men do with them. Like women, grief is a predominant emotion. Men are more likely to stuff those feelings. Women are more likely to seek out another woman to share those feelings with. A lot of men have said they wished they would have been more included throughout the procedure. Pre-abortion counseling, wanting to be with her during the abortion, and needing counseling after. What I've found in talking to these men is anger, while it may be the most apparent emotion, so it's the most frequently identified among those who study this issue, that anger is really a cover for deeper emotions like the helplessness and the grief. And anger becomes almost more of a defense mechanism for these men rather than what they're really experiencing at a deeper level.
When we return, we'll meet John Morales' wife, who says John's past abortion experience did impact their dating relationship. And we'll hear how life for John has taken a dramatic positive change with the adoption of a special little boy.
Whether you're a student needing answers, a parent needing help, or a concerned citizen wanting to make a difference, Life Issues Institute has the resources you need to put your values into action. Life Issues Institute is an international educational organization committed to protecting innocent human life. Life Issues Institute knows what it takes. That's why millions throughout the world turn here for help. Life Issues Institute has authored more pro-life publications than any other entity in the world, and its materials are printed in over 30 languages. Radio broadcasts, newsletters, and a website filled to the brim with the answers you're looking for are just a click away. Go to facinglife.tv and click on the link to Life Issues Institute to find out more about how you can change the heart of a nation.
It's been over 20 years since John begged his girlfriend not to have an abortion. She went through with it anyway, and John says ever since then, he's desired to be a father. After meeting Cindy, the two married and realized having a biological child was not in the plan. A few years later, the opportunity to adopt fell into their laps. A friend called to say a young couple had given birth to a baby boy and wanted to place him for adoption. John and Cindy became parents within 24 hours. Joseph Dominic is the little boy John never thought he'd be given the opportunity to raise. Cindy and Joseph Dominic joined John, and Cindy shared her perspective as the wife of a post-abortive man. Cindy and John, how has this past abortion affected you as a couple?
Well, I don't know that it affects us now so much, but what it did affect was us getting to be a couple in the first place, because John had some commitment issues. So when we met, after the second time we met, we talked for like 2 hours at church, and then I went home and I called my mom. I have never done this before, trust me. And I said, you aren't going to believe this, but I just met the man I want to marry. So I knew instantly we were supposed to get married, and I was waiting 10 long months for him to finally figure it out.
I didn't have a clue.
And part of the problem was that he had a problem like making that commitment. So in that way, it certainly affected us.
Has there been any healing issues for John that you've dealt with as a couple?
How it affected John, I can tell you, is for sure that I could see, besides the commitment thing, is when we would go out and we would see children playing like in the park, and he'd be like, wow, if I hadn't done that, then I would have been able to do that with my child, and I don't know if I'll ever have a child, you know. And well, that was another thing that affected our relationship, because of my age. Actually, I was not on the future Mrs. Morales list at first, because he was looking at younger women who would be more likely to have kids. And I was like, that's a bad reason not to marry me. They may not have kids either.
What a lot of people don't understand or realize probably is that there's quite a few resources to assist men who are grieving from the loss of a baby through abortion.
I would refer them to the Men and Abortion Network man page at lifeissues.org, because there's a list of resources there.
Well, how does a guy go about forgiving his partner who had an abortion against his will, or forgiving the abortionist, or forgiving the parent of the girl because they forced her into that?
He'll need to decide, am I willing to at least consider forgiving this person? And if so, am I willing to commit to working on this? And it's very important that he understands what forgiveness is at that point. It is the conscious, willful decision to give up my right to resentment and instead to choose to offer mercy to this person who hurt me. It's not excusing, doesn't mean he needs to reconcile. As he does that, he will experience empathy, and he will experience more compassion. And after making that decision, he's got more hard work to do, because now he has to attempt to reframe his view of this person he's trying to forgive. So he needs to work at not seeing her simply in the context of the abortion decision, but as a fellow human being that has inherent worth simply because she is a fellow human being created by God, just like he is.
Losing a child to abortion can have a profound impact on life. John and Jason have opened their hearts and shared their personal stories in hope that others will find healing. And little Joseph is living proof that there may be light at the end of the tunnel. If you're a man affected by abortion, contact us through our website at facinglife.tv, and we'll get you the help you need. Thanks for watching. Would you like to learn more about the impact abortion has on men? Contact me for your free copy of one of 2 excellent resources: Men and Abortion, The Path to Healing by my guest Dr. Catherine Coyle, and Fatherhood Aborted. They're free while the supply lasts. Simply visit our website at facinglife.tv. While there, find out how you can get your personal copy of today's episode on DVD.